learn about the intriguing story of Solomon and his 1,000 wives, an account filled with wisdom, power, and spiritual challenges. Hello everyone, welcome to our Bible Tales channel, and today I bring you the fascinating story of King Solomon and his 1,000 wives. A story full of twists, foreign influences, and devastating consequences. If you like this story that will come next, leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more videos like this. Now, without further ado, come with me on this journey. The story of Solomon has always fascinated me. Being the son of the great King David and inheriting not only the throne of Israel, but also his reputation as a wise and prosperous man, was quite a challenge. After my beloved father's departure, I ascended the throne with mixed emotions. The responsibility of leading a nation and the expectation of keeping alive the wisdom that had distinguished me so much. Throughout my reign, I sought to follow in the righteous footsteps left by David. I built the magnificent temple in Jerusalem, a symbol of our worship of God, and I sought to govern with righteousness and compassion. The challenges were many, but with wisdom and faith, I sought to honor the legacy left by my father. Throughout my reign as King of Israel, one of the most striking and controversial aspects of my story was my relationships with many women. I was known for having 700 royal wives and 300 concubines, totaling 1,000 women in my lifetime. Each of these women represented political alliances with other nations, strategies to strengthen relationships and consolidate power. Marriages to foreign princesses were common at the time, and were seen as a way to unite kingdoms and avoid conflict. However, what began as political alliances quickly became a source of spiritual and moral tension. The presence of so many wives and concubines in my palace was not only a status symbol, but also a challenge to maintain faith in the God of Israel in the face of the foreign influences brought by these women. Each marriage represented more than a marital union. It was a link between peoples, cultures, and beliefs that did not always align with the principles established by God for the people of Israel. The complexity of these relationships reflected not only the quest for power and political stability, but also the difficulties faced in balancing ancient traditions with an ever-changing world. Thus, Solomon's 1,000 wives were not just numbers on a list, but characters in an intricate narrative of politics, religion, and national identity. As the presence of my foreign wives became more evident in Jerusalem, the spiritual challenge I faced took on a darker tone. Many of these women worshipped pagan deities, bringing with them customs and rituals that clashed with the tenets of faith in the God of Israel. Little by little, their beliefs infiltrated the walls of my palace, echoing with offerings and invocations to unknown gods. Against the will of the Almighty, I allowed altars and temples to be built in the midst of my kingdom to honor these foreign deities. Songs of praise to idols echoed through the halls, competing with prayers to the Lord Almighty. Although I knew in my heart that this was wrong, political pressures and the influence of my wives pushed me deeper and deeper into a spiritual abyss. The murmurs of the prophets warning of the consequences of my infidelity echoed like distant thunder, but I, blinded by pride and lust for power, closed my ears to the voice of divine wisdom. Throughout my reign as King of Israel, I have faced one of the most challenging and darkest phases of my life. Divine disapproval hung over me, a consequence of my reckless choices and the spiritual infidelity I allowed to take root in my heart. After my death, what was supposed to be a legacy of wisdom and prosperity turned into a landscape of rupture and disintegration. The kingdom that I fought so hard to build, based on the values of the one God and the justice that I inherited from my father David, was divided. The consequences of my actions echoed through the streets of Israel, bringing with them not only political instability, but also a spiritual void that seemed impossible to fill. It was as if the very sacred ground on which I built the great temple of Jerusalem was crumbling beneath my feet. The memory of the 1,000 wives who once populated my chambers now echoed like a silent cry, reminding me of the choices that shaped not only my destiny, but the destiny of an entire nation chosen by God. The story of King Solomon would not just be remembered for his wisdom or wealth. It would be marked by the bitter taste of the fall, the result of a heart divided between fidelity to the Most High and the temptations of the world around it. As the consequences of my wrong choices unfolded before me, I could feel the depth of the spiritual burden I carried. The kingdom of Israel, which had once flourished under the unity and blessing of God, now found itself divided and weakened. The marks of my spiritual unfaithfulness were everywhere, reflected in the disunity of the chosen people. Loyalty to the one God had been replaced by strange worship and pagan practices that tarnished the purity of Israel's faith. Temples built to foreign gods silently cried out my failure to keep my covenant with the Most High. The cries of the prophets echoed like a lament in the empty halls of the palace, reminding me that the material prosperity I had achieved could not compensate for the spiritual ruin I had experienced. Faced with the division that had set in my kingdom, I saw clearly the devastating consequences of my spiritual fall, and understood that without genuine fidelity to the God of Israel, no wealth or power would last. As we delve into the narrative of Solomon's intriguing life, we are led to reflect on the challenges and dilemmas that surrounded his reign. As king of Israel, I realized that political power was a double-edged sword. While it gave me authority and influence, it also exposed me to constant pressures and temptations. Dealing with the demands of the throne and the expectations of the people was a delicate balance that required not only wisdom, but also spiritual discernment. The multiplicity of wives and strategic alliances that I maintained revealed not only my political skill, but also my vulnerabilities and weaknesses. Each marriage represented more than a marital union. It was a complex nexus of diverse kingdoms, cultures, and beliefs, challenging my fidelity to the God of Israel. As tensions intensified and foreign influences became more present in my reign, I found myself faced with crucial choices that would shape not only my personal destiny, but also the destiny of an entire nation chosen by God. Solomon's story invites us to explore the nuances of power and spirituality, reminding us of the complexities inherent in governance and decisions that impact lives beyond our own. Throughout my journey as king of Israel, I have faced countless challenges that have tested not only my wisdom, but also my faith and integrity. Coming from the lineage of David, a man whose courage and devotion were known throughout the nation, I inherited not only the throne, but also the responsibility of leading a people chosen by God. Solomon was my name, a mixture of hope and expectation that hung over my shoulders from the moment I ascended the throne. My father's reputation as a man after the Most High's own heart was both a burden and an inspiration to me. I sought to follow in his footsteps, to share his vision of justice and peace for Israel. But the path of leadership is full of treacherous twists and turns and challenging crossroads. As I delved into the intricate political issues and ethical dilemmas that permeated my reign, I realized that the power conferred by the crown was both a blessing and a constant test of character. As I forged complex political alliances with various nations through strategic marriages with hundreds of royal wives and foreign concubines, I felt torn between the demands of the outside world and the principles rooted in the one God. The presence of these 1,000 wives represented more than just marital ties. They were fragile links between divergent cultures, traditions, and beliefs that threatened to undermine the spiritual fabric of the kingdom. Tensions mounted as I tried to balance the demands of foreign policy with fidelity to my inherited faith. The fascinating story of King Solomon is not simply about worldly riches or glory. It is a complex account of the internal struggles faced by those invested with divine power over a chosen nation. Over the years as King of Israel, I found myself facing a challenge that transcended the boundaries of politics and diplomatic relations. The presence of so many wives and concubines in my palace was not just a matter of status or strategic alliances, but a complex web of influences and moral dilemmas. Each woman brought with her not only the royal lineage of her nation, but also its beliefs, its customs, and its deities. What began as an attempt to strengthen ties between kingdoms quickly turned into a constant test of my own faith and loyalty to the one God in whom I should trust. As altars to foreign deities multiplied in Jerusalem, the golden shine of the temple that had been erected in honor of Yahweh seemed to lose its luster in the face of the shadows of pagan cults that stealthily infiltrated the sacred walls. Every step taken toward foreign wives was like a distant echo of the prophet's warnings about the dangers of idolatry. And I, caught between external political demands and the internal convictions of my faith, found myself torn between two equally powerful forces, earthly power and divine authority. The unsettling sighs of my 1,000 wives echoed through the palace halls as a silent reminder of the complexity of the bonds forged under the shadow of the royal throne. As we delve deeper into the story of Solomon and his 1,000 wives, I invite you to reflect with me on the intricate ties that wove together in this epic tale. Each royal wife and foreign concubine represented not just a political alliance, but a universe of beliefs, traditions, and influences that shaped the destinies of a kingdom. The presence of these women in my palace was more than a matter of power and prestige. It was a constant test of my own fidelity to the God of Israel. As spiritual discord intensified and foreign altars rivaled the grandeur of the temple erected in honor of the Lord, I found myself faced with a monumental dilemma: remain faithful to my faith or succumb to the pressures of the world around me. Each step toward the foreign wives felt like a choice between two divergent realities, between political duty and spiritual loyalty. The saga of the 1,000 wives was not just a tale of royal marriages, but a painful echo of the unintended consequences that arise when the boundaries between the divine and the earthly are blurred. In this tangle of complex relationships, I learned that only by maintaining my unshakable faith in the one God could I resist the traps of external influences. May this story teach us to discern between the fleeting promises of human power and the eternal fidelity to the Most High. As I reflected on the challenges and dilemmas I faced as King of Israel, I realized that the story of Solomon and his 1,000 wives goes far beyond political marriages or strategic alliances. Each wife represented a unique universe of beliefs, traditions, and influences that shaped not only my reign, but also my own spiritual journey. As the tensions between faithfulness to the God of Israel and the pressures of the outside world intensified, I found myself at a moral crossroads. Each step toward foreign wives seemed to be a test of my own integrity, a challenge to keep the flame of faith burning amid the shadows of idolatry. The saga of the 1,000 wives was more than a tale of wealth and power. It was a painful reminder of the dire consequences of spiritual infidelity. Only by remaining steadfast in my unshakable faith in the one God could I resist the snares of external influences and the illusory promises of earthly power. May this story teach us to discern between the ephemeral temptations of the world and eternal fidelity to the Most High. Are you curious to know more about the developments of this surprising story? Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos. I hope you enjoyed this dive into the intriguing story of King Solomon. Leave your comments on which biblical character you would like me to cover in future videos. Until next time.